Hey,
Hello and
welcome
good
everyone.
morning. Was jamming out to that.
Morning,
your
guys.
Friday doesn't really start
I know.
until you
Such a
get
good
that
one.
5-minute epic track. One of the best tracks ever.
Absolutely. How are you guys?
Yeah, that's a good find.
It's
We're
chilly
doing well.
here.
How about you?
I am very glad it is Friday and looking forward to a peaceful weekend. It's been a long week.
It was
It's
47
a short week,
degrees
though, wasn't it? It was a 4-day week with
It sure didn't feel like it.
nice. Finally winding down.
That just means that it's 5 days of work that is put in those 4 days. So
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you guys do anything special for Labor Day weekend?
trying to remember.
Well, I spent
It's so
Labor Day
long
weekend trying to de-jet lag myself.
That's right, coming back from the land down under.
Yeah, that was the bad part. The
Did you see any kangaroos?
yes.
It's like going to Florida. You haven't really been to Florida unless you've seen a gator. So if you've seen a kangaroo, you were actually in Australia.
Saw koala, kangaroo, platypus, you name it. Mostly from going to the zoo. That helped.
I would argue that you haven't truly been to Florida unless you've interacted with a Florida man and have your own Florida man story. I have to imagine that Australia probably has something similar to Florida man as well, though, given the wide array of dangerous animals that they have.
Right, like Australia, man. Most is the coffee. That's the that was some good coffee. I think the whole continent runs on espresso.
Yep. Well, you got to come back and see your Mets doing all right.
Just all right, which is an improvement from disastrous that they were for the last month or so. I've never seen a team be quite this streaky. They've they keep going on these long winning streaks and then losing like 6 in a row. Just really weird.
Yeah.
Cubs are still looking pretty good.
Yeah, hit and miss. I thought we were gonna hold out against the Braves and sweep the series, but unable to close it out. It's some good close games though.
Yeah.
Josh has his wonderful team.
Yeah, we've fallen behind the Dodgers, which, did anyone expect anything less? Come on now.
Yeah, kind of inevitable.
But now it's football season. I mean, football season technically started yesterday. It starts this Sunday. One of my fantasy teams this year, I had ChatGPT pick my entire lineup, my entire draft. Thought I gave it the right prompts, but it made some questionable advice, such as thinking Derrick Henry's still on the Titans, and Hollywood Brown is the wide receiver #1 for the Chiefs. So I'm a little worried about my team, but you know what? It's an experiment. We're going to let it happen. So
did it have Dak Prescott getting spit on his
Hold on. You spit first. Rewind the tapes.
Right? I like that we're one game into the season and there's already some kind of controversy.
Yep.
Oh, well, let's bring in our guest today. We have the one and only Dylan Hutchinson. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We're good.
Thanks very much for having me. And I know you guys were still talking about baseball for some reason when, the next 4 months are going to be completely comprised of nothing but football. So yeah. And
who's your
Josh,
football team?
I am unfortunately a Colts fan.
Okay.
Yep. And I get bullied living down here in Louisville because everybody's Bengals fans. And then the people that, didn't watch football for years and years and years, they go, yeah, we're now Ravens fans. And I know one of my friends is watching this and I'm calling him out directly for being a bandwagon Ravens fan.
Is there such a thing? I mean, it's hard to tell because the Ravens have never been baseball dwellers.
He's only been a fan for 3 years. He just started watching football, and he didn't have to go through the pain of sucking as a Ravens fan.
It's funny. Now that I think about it, they've never been actually bad, have they?
No, they've just never been standout phenomenal. They've always had a rock star defense and some fun. Yeah. Having Joe Flacco as a quarterback is nothing but fun to watch. But yeah, never had a phenomenal run.
Yeah, especially if you like PI penalties.
True.
It could be worse. You can be a Bears fan, and that's. I don't know if you saw the NFL's promo graphic for the Super Bowl with all the teams or a player from all the teams running towards the trophy, and they of course pick a punter for the Bears. I'm like, yeah, thanks.
No, I didn't see that.
No, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it though.
Yeah. Oh well.
I've been trying to get Dylan on this show for quite some time, so I'm glad it finally worked. And since we finally got him, let's put him on the spot with our first story here.
Let's do it.
All right.
That's a pro segue right there.
Advice for new tech, burnout, imposter syndrome. I'm 18 and a current technical apprentice for an MSP next in line for promotion into a Tech 1 role. A big portion of my days are filled with answering phones, provisioning machines, doing Intune and Entra enrollments, fixing Outlook and Teams issues, setting up accounts, applying policies, resetting passwords, and navigating through Apple Business Manager profiles and just taking up space in the ticket queue. I also shadow lead techs on more substantial projects, though for the most part I'm switching between remote sessions, solving tickets, and hoping momentum continues. The problem is I know that I have a lot to offer. Back home, I've assembled an Arch Linux RAID system from scratch. I maintain a Proxmox cluster. I mess around with automation. I even set up a complete trading node because I was curious whether or not I could. I maintain game servers, and I've always been the one that runs I've been the one that everyone runs to anytime something breaks. In theory, I should feel pretty confident, but my imposter syndrome doesn't care. My manager told me one day he believes one day I will surpass him, and a coworker once said he'd never seen a person provision that many systems as I was provisioning when I get it started. In spite of that, my mind convinces me I'm just lucky. One day everyone will know that I don't belong, and then there's burnout. Answering the phone and doing tickets at the same time is a lot. My commute is 40 minutes one way, and I find myself dozing off in the break room just to make it through the day. I like tech, I like pushing myself, but some days it feels like it's taking more out of me than it's giving. So how do you overcome this, and what do you do? I mean, this guy is 18. Dylan, what are you telling this kid?
Yeah, so I would say of this group, I've got a unique perspective of this because I've never been in MSP tech. Have always been on the biz dev side. But I would say if you just look at this and you're like, okay, this is a lot of red flags, we got to worry about this person leaving. I think you just need to keep giving this person stuff to work on and stuff to propel themselves forward. Ultimately, I think this is going to come down to a culture kind of discussion at their specific MSP. But I would say, I mean, if their manager says like, hey, I believe one day you can even surpass me and, maybe be a service manager or, whatever the position might be, it's actually a good thing. But on the idea of avoiding burnout and making sure that you still love technology day after day, I would say that's a conversation you have to have with yourself of, do I need to take some time off? Do I need to work on delegating tasks to other members of the team? And I know as a Tech 1 role, you might not have that ability to. But ultimately, what are the things that you really love to do? What are the things you're really good at? And then what are things you still need to learn, or kind of where I would focus to avoid the burnout?
Well, and Dylan, I know we were kind of talking briefly in the green room about setting strong boundaries around like schedule and stuff. You want to touch on that real briefly?
Yeah, I mean, it's super easy when you're doing something you love that you're like, yeah, just throw more work on me. Call me whenever you need me. But like, for example, I was out of town late last week. Friday's typically a fairly busy day for the Shield team. But my team made sure that, hey, go take your time off and do what you need to do. We won't call you. I would say if you've got the ability to collaborate with your team and set those boundaries of, hey, this is going to be my off time, or hey, I'm doing something where I'm going to be away from my machine. I think that's another big piece where you could avoid that burnout, where you're just not feeling like you're constantly on call or constantly the one that people have to rely on because you're the only one that knows how to do it. The other thing they could consider, it depends on, kind of what their goal is for being the one-man show of, knowing how to do these things. But you could put together some like training documentation for other members of the team and saying like, hey, I provision a lot of systems really, really, really quickly. This is how I've done that, and set up systems in place for other members of the team.
I want to throw a different perspective in here. This dude is 18 and he said he's an apprentice. He's doing tier 1 level work, if not more. He's doing way more than an apprentice should. Secondly, it sounds like obviously he's into tech, but he's got a lot of stuff going on at home. If you're doing all of this at work and then you go home and do your tech stuff too, like you got to take a break sometime, right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing all of this at work now, maybe let your home lab, like, leave it up. Don't get rid of it, but like give it a rest, man. Go, touch some grass, like pick up some hobby or something. Like, don't go from work doing all the tech and then home. And now I'm going to troubleshoot, N8N and all of this. Like, I used to have a home lab too, and I've been doing this long enough where I was having wireless issues, and I got so frustrated that I just ripped out my net gate, my Pi hole, all of that stuff. And you know what? I have a bare bones, like a Linksys mesh system because I don't want to mess with this anymore. Like I want to spend my time running and playing golf or, you know, playing the new Silk Song game that just came out. So like, you got to find some hobbies, man. You're 18. Like, I don't want to say you're too young to be burnt out, but like, yes, do some boundaries and stuff, but you got to I think you got to pull back. And I would rather, you know, focus on your career again, keep your home lab for stuff that you maybe can't figure out or you want to dive more into, but don't go 100% at work or 110% at work and then go home and do the same thing.
Oh man, do I feel this guy? I feel like I was this guy for quite a while.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, right. You guys have seen my burnout talks. Feel like he has my slide deck. Couple of things of advice or pieces of advice I would give this person. One is, the home lab stuff is good, but also not to be a wet blanket on it, but be aware of the degree to which that actually translates to business IT. It's a totally different world, and the duct tape different Linux distros and 75 open source projects together strategy, while fun, does not necessarily translate to making good business tech decisions. And it actually becomes something that you have to unlearn as you start getting into business and enterprise systems, right? That stuff just doesn't fly. And it actually takes some effort to get out of that mindset. Just be careful of that when you're doing that kind of home lab stuff. I would suggest spending some time home labbing enterprise software. Like there's free trials of like Windows Server and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I know it's like a faux pas to be on the Windows side because Linux is cool and all that, but it's just not going to translate necessarily into nobody's like building their own kernels in the business world unless you work for like Google or Facebook or something. But on the burnout side, yeah, I did this for a long time. I would work all day, come home, lab something up, answer a bunch of email at night, and man, you guys all know what happened to me. I ended up totally burned out and not able to have any kind of personal life whatsoever, and ended up leaving the MSP industry to go work for a vendor. So I think the big thing is take some time for yourself. You know, Josh said, like, I went down the same thing. I don't have a stack of routers at my house anymore. I have like an Asus or Mixus or something router. Take some time for yourself. Like, it's one of those things. It's almost like listening to advice from your parents, right? Like you just don't want to listen to it until you go through it yourself. But I'll say it too, just in the interest of maybe it'll click from one of us. You'll get to a point where you really want your personal time. And I get that there's this period of in the beginning having to establish yourself and getting the foundational knowledge, but man, just go home, go on a run if that's what you do, watch some TV, like whatever it is that you do, get up for a little bit and turn the work brain off. And you'll end up better in the long run. The other thing is, I know I'm kind of monopolizing the floor for a second, but I'll say one last thing. And that is there's almost like, I don't even want to call it like arrogance or Dunning-Kruger, but you can almost get into that mindset of like, man, I really know my stuff. And I'm saying that from experience, not to be judgmental. And as you get further into the technical and see how the business and tech intersect and start dealing with the reality of budget constraints and just all sorts of other resources and things, this stuff's a lot harder than it seems in the home lab. So just keep that in mind too when you're thinking about your career trajectory. It's very easy in the beginning to think like, man, I really got all this stuff down or know myself. This stuff's a lot harder than it seems at first. So I'll leave that as my last point.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me on this is burnout and imposter syndrome are something you're just always going to live with in this industry, and you have to be aware of. I don't know that any of us feel like we've overcome our imposter syndrome at this point. It's something that, like, I'm still shocked that people will listen or give a chance for me to have a microphone. But on the burnout side, I'm trying to think if at 18, if I was having an existential crisis already or not, and if it was warranted. But I think that what I saw over my career so far has been that I think that I'm going to be burning myself out and pushing myself extra hard, back off, and then gain perspective that there's all this other crap that I didn't even realize existed, or that what, kind of put things in reference. So I was having a conversation earlier this week about, how do you remain so calm and, when there's fires everywhere around you, type of thing. And it's like you kind of become desensitized and gain more perspective over time, more empathetic to those situations and plights that people have. And I think that kind of inversely affects some of the burnout. So there's probably some type of chart that could be generated around burnout and gaining that perspective. The other thing on Matt's point there, as you kind of get more into the corporate world, another discussion this week was about how as you get into larger corporations, you start actually losing some of the freedoms that you had when you were at a entry role or smaller organization. And you think that you're joining some of these large companies and they're going to have all these resources available to you and new freedoms. And that isn't always the case. Sometimes this means that, you need approval from 12 different people on something, or there's more red tape involved in it. So it is definitely a different world than the home lab world that a lot of us started with.
And before we wrap up on this story, I want to touch on a common theme that's been said on the show 100 times. Like, imposter syndrome is at its core a healthy thing. It means you're challenging yourself. I know Eric Bowles has ranted about this a million times. I've got some clips with him. But if you are sitting there and you're saying like, no, I'm the best in the business at this exact task, that means you're kind of a narcissist and you're not pushing yourself. You're not surrounding yourself by the people that are going to continuously challenge you. So I would say in this post, the fact that they're 18 and dealing with some burnout does make me worry a little bit, but I hope that they've got people around them that can help kind of corral and lift them up. But the imposter syndrome side is healthy. I would say that's actually a good thing, and kind of a mindset you should take as an 18-year-old, especially an 18-year-old working in a tech field.
Awesome. Well, we definitely, it was a lot of good conversation around that. So let's go ahead and get to our next story, which is one of our favorite topics here. It's an MSP posting about needing a tool in their stack. But this tool they want is for productivity tracking. Our company is seeking a solution to reduce idle time at work and enhance overall remote work performance. We want a productivity tracking tool that can give us insights without being overly invasive. We understand the concerns about employee monitoring software, but for certain roles, knowing activity levels can improve time management for teams. We're considering a couple due to their reputation, without constant screenshot monitoring. And what experience have you had with tools or approaches that addresses these while maintaining team morale? We know what everyone says about productivity training tool or tracking tools, but we're special and our situation's different, and it's totally going to work this time. What do you guys think?
Tools solve all problems. So
yeah.
Every time. Go ahead and sign up for 3 years.
I do have an answer. I'll just give an answer on this and then cede the floor so I don't spend 20 minutes again. 2 thoughts on this. One is I always took the opinion on the MSP side, we're not the morality police. If you want to use a productivity tracking tool, I'm not going to stop you. I don't think it works, but you're the customer, right? I don't really like the moral soapbox that tends to come up with this answer. That being said, I have found that if you're at the point where you think you need that kind of productivity tracking tool, you either don't have the right employees or you don't have the right way to measure what they're doing, right? It's no different than being in the office, billable hours, some kind of tickets, just whatever the the person's actual workload is measure, is that work getting done in some way, and pay less attention to the how would be my opinion. But I try to sidestep that whole you should never do productivity tracking and it's morally wrong. Like, just, I don't know, as the consulting company, if that's what they want, so be it. Yeah,
I would strongly say that this is a management issue and not a tool issue. If you are at that point where you don't trust that your employees are going to do what they're supposed to be doing, then yeah, you've got bigger issues here that a tool is not going to solve. That's different than asking for time tracking on tickets, so that you can see like how much time is being spent on driving versus whatever. But yeah, this sounds like a management issue, the way that at least that it's outlined here.
Yeah, we could sit here and absolutely. What's that?
So does anyone disagree? Dylan, do you think you should use one of these apps?
No, I don't know how these apps are still in existence. I mean, maybe it's because of these conversations right here. But no, I think this is I've always thought this way about these kind of tools. I think they're very micromanagey in the completely wrong way. Like, you might as well be sitting over there, like just hovering over team statuses and waiting on them to turn yellow and then messaging that person immediately. And like you guys have said, there's way more meaningful metrics that you can track, like, average time to resolve a ticket, or just other more meaningful business metrics, rather than, hey, is this person being idle when they're sitting at their desk? It doesn't make sense to me. So no, I do not disagree.
I have a lot of management experience. I've never used these. And the thing that comes to my mind is I have so much other shit that I need to worry about and do as a manager. The last thing that I have time to do is sit and watch a tracking tool that tells me like that I'm going to look through all your screenshots and see if you've been on Netflix or Hulu. Like, that's just if you're getting your job done, you're meeting your KPIs, the customers are happy, you're a good culture fit, I don't care. Like, there's other things that we can worry about than, you potentially watching some Twitch streamer, work appropriate, like video game person, not whatever the bathtub gamer ones. But, in any case, like, that's like, as long as I'm
what are you even watching, Josh?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Josh, do you want to send us your Twitch to see who you sub to?
Not at all. I don't want Twitch, but it was an interesting culture thing when I was like a senior, like the architect, and then most of the they're like 18, 19 or whatever. I'll be watching like disc golf on YouTube or like some speed runs or whatever, and like they just have their favorite Twitch streamer up, and it's like, oh, so like you guys don't even watch TV, you literally just watch Twitch, like that's their entertainment. It's like, cool.
Yeah, whatever you need to make work more enjoyable, because like if they're trying to do a gotcha thing of like, oh, this person's watching Netflix while they're working, again, if somebody's watching every single episode of SpongeBob while they're resolving tickets, like, it doesn't matter as long as they're getting their job done. Now, where I do think it does become an issue, and maybe why these conversations start to come up, is maybe quality of work starts to go down, or quantity of work starts to go down pretty dramatically. That's when you maybe need to just have a conversation, not try to track someone's activity and get them into a "I caught you" kind of scenario. But yeah, I'd love to see a case study from someone that uses this kind of software, like a legitimate case study, not like a, hey, we were paid or given a discount to give this case study. I want to see a real world example of why somebody used this tool and how it actually helped morale and helped productivity. I'd love to be proven wrong on this opinion. I just hate these tools.
You guys wait. It's going to be a requirement to be on MSP Community Live. You're going to need Active Track, and I got to make sure that you're, spending the time researching these threads and coming up with your thoughts and everything. And if not, just bringing the hammer down.
Yeah. Well, good luck trying to keep up with the 30 different tabs I have.
You just see my square disappear. Ray comes in like, hey, nope, not doing that.
Josh, I'm going to send that computer right back to your house. So actually, I'm going to show up to your door with it. Be like, you can have this back.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and get to our next story here, which I found interesting. This one comes to us to the IT manager subreddit, and especially from the MSP world. Is being a generalist valuable? So the TLDR of this: took over my manager's role in the organization for 6 years at this time. Along with management, I still perform some technical work. I'm a broad generalist, and I feel this is not beneficial in today's job market. Help identifying if my type of role is common and if it's generally used, and where to improve. So I mean, this is an interesting perspective from the MSP world, but with IT, you can either be a jack of all trades, master of none, or super specialize into backups or security or coding or cloud. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think this aligns very well with the medical field, and I think our industry's pretty much shaping up the same way. Is that, yes, you're still going to have generalists that are your family doctors, emergency room physicians, but you are finding more and more specialists as things kind of commoditize. But I think there's always going to be that place for the generalists, especially in diagnosis and in management.
Yeah, I think there's still both. And in fact, I think we almost have the opposite extreme problem. Think about how many people now are hyper-focused on something like cybersecurity or went to college and got a degree in cyber and don't have any infrastructure background and don't really understand how all the stuff works together and the glue. That's starting to become an issue. Like, I'll talk to people who don't really get how networks work or how DNS works. Save your web developer jokes for later, everyone. When I was MSPing, there were only a handful of people in our org that were hyper specialists, and that was someone who was like very, very strong in VMware. There was like somebody who was very strong in a particular firewall model or networking in general, really. And yeah, it started to get a little more as we grew and got really big. But think about a typical client, right? A typical MSP or a typical SMB, rather. You're going into some 50-person office. You don't need somebody who knows how to, troubleshoot like the biggest VMware cluster around. You need someone who knows how to start the VM and then go deal with that person's SaaS application administration right after that, right? There's still a big room for specialists, and it's the vast majority of the work that we do. Yeah, in bigger upmarket clients and bigger MSPs and bigger businesses, it's more relevant. But for the cost of someone who is that hyper focused on something, they're not going to want to go fix some M365 issue in a printer after they fix the hypervisor. So there's still kind of room for both.
Yep.
So the other thing that I want to call out is in the long version of this post, this person's a manager. So they are leading teams across a couple different departments on an internal IT scenario. I think being a generalist is actually super helpful for that. And I'm going to skate away from the tech side and get over to the sales side real quick. I've had CROs that have never touched the sales side. They've only been on the marketing side or have only been on maybe a channel side. They don't know how the other segments of the business work. Now, transferring back, the fact that this is a generalist who knows the side, they said that they've got a dev team of 4 and a data team of 2. They were a data engineer. Like, that's super helpful. Like, when your team members you're managing are coming to you with problems, odds are they're problems that you used to see in your day-to-day, or at least you know how to guide them in the right direction. Whereas myself, I would be a horrible manager in this scenario. And I'd be 0% helpful. So I think being a generalist in a management capacity is actually better than being a generalist in like in a technical capacity. But that's just my opinion.
From the manager perspective too, because you're in a different role. Like it is good to have the technical understanding, but your role is just much different. Being from the IT side of things too, like especially we go back to that 18-year-old, like being a generalist will get you kind of exposed and get you the good, framework. And then once you find something you're super interested in, maybe that's the path you go down. Like, you know what, I understand I have a concept of networking, of security, of Active Directory, of servers, of cloud, but like I really, really like, backups or automation. So that's kind of where you can focus on. I don't think you can really have a hyper focus until you have that core like general knowledge, because even, you know, regardless of what your focus is, you still kind of have to have that underlying, you know, general IT knowledge.
So I'll throw a different lens on this. Is I've had some conversations recently around people that want to do more speaking in the industry and be more prominent, but they don't feel like they're known for anything because they aren't specialists, and they see themselves as more generalist. Would you have any advice around that?
No, because that's me. I mean, I've dabbled in like Azure and like I'm pretty good at security and like business stuff, but I feel that I am a very broad like generalist, which is weird because then, you know, sometimes like it's that old imposter syndrome, right? Like I'll talk to, you know, maybe newer techs or other techs who, you know, maybe haven't been exposed to stuff, and it's like, maybe I do know what I'm talking about. But most days I'm like, I have a very broad general understanding of this stuff. So it's, you know, that's how I feel.
Yeah, getting away from the actual like generalist versus specialized, I think a lot of that comes down to building up that personal brand and just talking to more people. There are some people that have picked up microphones, and I'm like, how are you the one on stage when the person sitting to my left is 10 times smarter than than you will ever be? So I guess I want to start there, is like, just put yourself out there, be a little vulnerable, ask for a chance. I mean, we all know in the MSP community, like, we are begging for more people to speak up and kind of put their voice out there on the right things, I guess I should say. But yeah, just put yourself out there.
Yeah, you don't have to be a hyper specialist or necessarily someone with super deep expertise in many things. In fact, it's sometimes easier to speak about a subject as a generalist because deep expert talks are inaccessible to 90% of your audience. I've ran into that multiple times where it did a talk and went so far into the weeds that, you know, you could like see the confused looks in the audience. Just talk about what you know. You know, you know something, and chances are very good that you know something in a different way than someone in the audience, and you'll give it a new perspective. Just because you can't go in and like talk to the literal ones and zeros of something happening technically, or you know, it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. I think that's a huge thing with talks, and I know we're segueing a little bit, but when you're thinking about doing a talk, you don't have to be saying something completely new and innovative that the world hasn't seen before. What you need to do is talk about something you know in a way that the audience hasn't heard before, and that'll resonate. And it takes a while to get out of that mindset that, hey, I have to blow the audience away and change their world. Yeah, it's great if you can do that, and if you have something that's that unique and share it, but just give them a new way to think about something, and that's just as valuable.
I mean, I get away with getting on stage and blowing people away with what an idiot I am. So, I mean, there's room for everyone.
Right. Hey man, well, let's kind of continue this conversation with this our next story here. So we kind of talked about generalists. Now it's not a bad thing. So as we're leveling that up, we're trying to become a better generalist. What is an underrated skill that isn't taught in courses or certs? Notice that most of my formal cybersecurity courses and certification usually cover big areas. So we had talked about you need fundamentals in network security, you know, malware, pen testing, compliance. But in real world practice, a lot of the truly valuable skills often get missed. For example, I've heard people saying things like digging through OSINT in unconventional ways made them very effective than just knowledge from the books. So in your opinion, you know, how can someone level up that isn't taking a certification or some courses on Udemy?
To jump in, I would say the most important thing you can do that they're not going to teach you in a certification or a traditional training track is being able to present results to non-technical stakeholders. Like, so a pen tester, for example, they might be the best pen tester in the world. They're able to get, you know, DA on any system out there. If you're not able to translate that to direct business risk to the customer, they have no idea what they just spent $15,000 on. So that's always mine. I've engaged with a lot of really good testers or GRC people, even people in the SOC that don't really have a, Henry, to use your healthcare example, like a bedside manner when it comes to working with customers. And it never gives them like a comforting feeling like, oh yeah, sure, you did the thing, but I don't really know why you did it or how this impacts me. So that's my number one thing for techs, is be able to translate what you did into a business discussion with your end users. I could talk about that for hours.
I think it goes into the broader spectrum of like soft skills and social skills, which obviously I'm going to hit on. I mean, talking about talks earlier, I'll do a little bit of shameless self-promotion. I give a talk on how my time in the restaurant has greatly helped my MSP and cybersecurity career. And I mean, I really can't say it enough. Like, you get those those soft skills, those like social skills from the service industry. I mean, you talked about knowing how to present the results. Knowing your audience is a good thing too, because maybe your C-level is a little bit more technical. So if you keep it super high level, they're going to be like, "What did we pay for?" Like, because we feel we understand this better than you're presenting. Or on the other hand, if they're not technical at all and you do get in the weeds, then you run into Dylan's situation. When I was bartending or serving, like reading the table, some tables wanted to have fun and you could joke around with them and spend a little more time. Other people, they just wanted their food and get the hell out. So you make sure that their cups are refilled and things like that. Again, same thing. We're just changing the language and the scenario what we're at. So soft skills is my number one underrated skill that will, I think, really make you go far in your career.
Yeah, I would echo what both Josh and Dylan said. If I had to pick one that wasn't what they said, I would say spend a few minutes just learning business in general. You don't have to go get an MBA or even do one of those like Udemy online MBA courses or anything like that. But if you walk into a conversation and they're using all sorts of terms you don't know what margin really means or like any of that kind of stuff. Spend some time familiarizing yourself with the business world. You don't have to go deep, especially depending on your role, right? There's no reason to if you're a deep security analyst or something, but being able to convey in business terms, like Dylan mentioned, the impacts of, well, if the system goes down, you can have much better risk-based conversations if you have an understanding of how the business works to begin with. So maybe, yeah, business in general, but if in your organization, learn how it works as an organization. Like where does the revenue come from? How is it distributed? All of that stuff. It's not cool. It'll make you more valuable, and frankly, it'll make you taken seriously by the rest of the organization, and especially the executive team, right? Being able to talk in those terms and not just, we have to go buy this log parsing system that's going to be like, $100,000. Okay, here's why and the impacts, not just because if you don't, everything's going to blow up, right? That makes you more of a real contributor to the org, and you stop being seen as that just money sink that IT is seen as almost separate from the business.
So I would say it comes down to three things in my mind that I think really help benefit people is understanding relationships and the interactions between things, whether that is a technical thing or an administrative or business thing. Understanding how things impact each other will carry you very, very far. You don't have to have deep knowledge. Just understand what correlation or causation may happen because something changes over here, what that does to the other side. It's something that's carried me very far just in the troubleshooting side between business and technical.
Well, I want to emphasize, sorry, if you want to finish your statement, but I want to jump on another one that you just said, the word troubleshooting. I think that is another skill that isn't taught in these courses or certifications. It's all about, hey, set this up, especially when like in college, it's like you learn how to set up the networks, how to do this. But it's really hard to teach, well, in a non-perfect world, or what if it doesn't go, like what happens when it goes wrong? knowing the troubleshoot and knowing, your resource and how to use them. And I mean, that's not even just like a tech skill, that's a life skill, because inevitably things aren't going to work. So, are you whipping out the manual? Are you, pulling up Google, or just, trying different things, like examining it a different way? I think troubleshooting is another skill that is very, very good to have.
Yeah. So aside from understanding the relationships of things, doing something that scares you. So whether that is something that you have no experience in, doing a podcast or recording a video, or setting up a VM, do something occasionally that is outside of your comfort zone. And then lastly, expose yourself to new information that's outside of your wheelhouse or outside of your expertise. So like I always try to go to one event a year that is completely not technical related, just so that I can, gain a little bit of insight into what they do.
Perfect. Well, let's let's go back a little bit and talk more about troubleshooting. In our next story here, my coworkers are starting to completely rely on ChatGPT for anything that requires troubleshooting, and the results are as predictable as you think. On the easier stuff, sure, here's a quick fix, but anything that takes the slightest bit of troubleshooting, the ChatGPT says we should change this, and it's something completely unrelated, plain wrong, or made up slop. How do we fix this? Is this something that you guys have experienced at all with your techs?
Give me a second to give my answer. I'm asking ChatGPT what I should say. But you guys go ahead.
I mean, how do you fix it? Like, learn how to troubleshoot again, or remember how to troubleshoot. That's a scary thought. And I think we're going to start running into that as people come into the industry that have never had to live without that, or we even have talked about it with the proliferation of SaaS apps, right? Or there are people who have never built servers in the industry now, or don't know how networks work. I don't know what the fix is though, right? The fix is continue to use your experience, like just do that. I'm curious if any of you guys have actual real answers to that, or if the only answer is just go do it.
I mean, it should be something you should do at some point. You're troubleshooting, hey, did you ask AI? Did you ask ChatGPT? Whatever you want to be using. But it definitely shouldn't be the only thing you use. I mean, I was trying to troubleshoot a SIP issue, and it told me to, run a PowerShell command in SIP, and it's like, you can't do that. That's not a thing. So it's tough. Because again, you want it to be a tool, but also if you just rely on it and take it at face value, well, now you're eliminating any critical thinking.
Yeah, there's a link we'll share in the chat about a study that's done here fairly recently this year about how AI usage is eroding critical thinking skills because people are becoming overly reliant on it. It's kind of like reminiscent, I suppose, of when you were in school and they talking about, becoming over reliant on the calculators. You need to know how to still do it without the calculator. And I think that as a society and likely our schools are probably facing this battle right now of people becoming increasingly reliant on AI as a tool, but losing a lot of the common knowledge and critical thinking skills because of that.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, as we look forward to the advancement and I guess the sophistication of AI being a little bit more reliant, I would say, sure, maybe we can get to the point where for that easy stuff, you can do a quick fix with, insert your AI tool, but you've got to have some processes in place. Like if you know that one member of your team or, maybe your tier one techs are constantly using ChatGPT to fix all the issues, you've got to have processes in place to where they can't touch some business critical systems or applications because they might break something. So I would say start there, but then it becomes an education piece of, okay, let's set up a sandbox environment. Okay, go ahead and do that fix, see what happens. Teach them that they can't rely on AI blindly. And I think that could start to push back on that critical thinking of, maybe looking out for different patterns that are either correct or incorrect.
Well, hold on, but let's take this like a step further here. Like, if you're, I think this comes from the sysadmin subreddit, but let's, MSPs, they have the tier system. So tier 1, 2, and 3. What's to stop the tier 1 people from basically just keep escalating this stuff? Like, hey, we can't get it. ChatGPT said this, so I'm escalating this up because I can't do it. How do you fix
Sounds
that?
like you need a productivity monitoring tool for that.
An AI enabled one.
That's right.
I mean, I say that jokingly, but it's kind of the same issue, right? You have a management issue there, not a technical problem.
Agreed. So let's go. Let's continue on with Dylan's idea of, hey, put this in a sandbox and see what happens. Our last story here is a fun one. Have you ever messed up at work? What's your biggest mess up at work? Deleting a domain, sending client info to someone else. I know I've told the story on the show a couple times about me completely destroying the Exchange server of a local college. So let's put Dylan on the spot here. What's your work mess up story? These are always fun.
No, I would say I don't have any on the technical side because I'm never to be trusted with an actual network. I've always been on the client side. No, I mean, there's been times I can think back to where I got customers mixed up and, I had typos in a proposal, but let me noodle on some and try to think of a really good mess up, that I've learned from. Yeah. Come back to me.
It's not mine, but the story is so good. One of my coworkers was responding to a low disk alert and said, man, there's a lot of log files on this Exchange server. That was quite a restore once he went and deleted all of the mailbox log files because the backups hadn't been purging them. I guess a related one might be backup exec. That seems like it could be a good product. That was also a work mess up.
I've had a lot of naive things that have caused me issues over the years, from just not understanding politics between like different unions on job sites, to I had a employee at one point that was found passed out in a vehicle, and I didn't realize that they had a drug usage issue, and other coworkers were like, "Oh no, this is quite obvious and been quite obvious." So I would say a lot of my my issues have just been from being naive.
I thought of mine, and it's an embarrassing one because I'm now someone that is not a huge fan and advocate of just mass cold outreach. I was trying out a new email automation tool for prospecting efforts, and I thought I was going to send out a sample email to myself, and I didn't put any of the fields in, so I sent out, hey, first name to a couple thousand people. And had to burn the entire lead list to the ground and act like it never happened.
It's okay. Mine just went to spam, so I didn't even know you sent that, Dylan.
Yours is still in the mail.
Awesome. All right, we made it through. We survived. Dylan, thanks for being on. Let's bring up our events calendar and plug what's coming up here. Henry, take us through.
All right, so we've got Canna ITCon in Kelowna, Canada next week, or I guess that's starting this weekend. And then Channel Pro Live in Atlanta. Not on here, but I will be with Total in Chicago at Wrigley Field, doing an event there. I believe that's actually going to be the same week as ASCII Edge Dallas. Then Tech Bar, you catch all of our smiling faces on a special crossover episode on the 18th. ScaleCon will be going on in New Orleans, Tech Tribe and MSP Camp, I believe. throwing that on. I heard good things about that last year. And then, of course, IR games every single month. And Josh, I'm happy to be joining you guys as one of the facilitators on that.
Sweet. Come aboard. I'm excited to have you. It should be a blast.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that does it for our show today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And I won't be here next week. I got my leadership summit, so I'll be enjoying. Well, I'll be in the terrible, awful weather of San Diego. I don't know how I'm going to survive. It's going to be the worst.
Horrible for you.
So,
Ooh, that sounds rough.
Exactly. So hopefully you guys will to have a great show. And look forward to seeing that after Friday. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks from me, but the show goes on.
All right. Have a good weekend,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.